down that camera and strap in. It's time for a new episode of TogChat Live. Get ready for 60 minutes of wall-to-wall photography, including photo news, tips, and your photography questions in real time, with answers from your host, Olympus visionary Joe Edelman.
Hey gang, that's me. I'm your host, Joe Edelman, for another live episode of TogChat. And as always, thank you guys for joining me, spending part of your Wednesday evening here with me while I help you to get a better understanding of the hows and whys behind great photography. Yes, we're in Studio 2 tonight, but more about that in a minute. You know I'm going to ask you, please do me a solid. Spread the word, let your friends know that we are streaming live on YouTube right now. You can go ahead and you can share the link that is underneath the video. In fact, it should be like right down, around there or so, okay? Or I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna put the link here in the chat window for you guys so you can share it out right there. Facebook, Twitter, they're the fastest way to get the word out. And if you haven't done so already, please check in, say hi, let me know where you're from. One of the coolest things about doing this TogChat, I've got people in here tonight from Hobart, Indiana, and I've got Judy, who I know is down in Georgia, and I've got Keith in the south of France, and Misha from Switzerland, and I got Lynn from New York, and let's see here, Dean's here from the UK, Pierluigi from Italy, Natasha from Memphis, Pateo's here from Switzerland. It's just cool. It's just really cool to be able to talk photography with people from all over the world. It really is. So, that being said, let's go ahead and dig in. Oh, and by the way, I'm going to give you a quick studio tour here, but while I'm doing that, start typing those questions in, okay? I've got 90 minutes. Look at this. Ecuador, California, Glendale, Arizona, Belgium, Melbourne. Good morning, Susan. How you doing? So, anyway, start typing those questions in. I only have a few questions lined up tonight, so we've got plenty of time to talk. We'll be able to cover a lot of ground, and you know that I will do my darndest to get them all in. But I know that a lot of you are waiting to see what the new studio looks like and that. So we're gonna try out a little piece of iPhone technology here. So if all goes well, I'm gonna be able to feed it into the stream, and I'm gonna walk around. No gimbals, nothing fancy, but I'll give you a quick little tour. The studio's not that big, but it is a bigger shooting space than my previous studio. And I actually have a question that's in the queue already, where somebody asked kind of about the, why the move, what's it like making that switch, all of that stuff, right? So bear with me for 1 second here. I am gonna start up this little piece of software, and we are gonna see if we can go ahead and get this to connect. You ready? So you're gonna lose me, but you'll see the studio and you'll hear me. Awesome. So here is the studio. So first of all, a lot of times you folks ask me about my live stream setup. So here's the live stream setup. So this is my desk space, okay? And a lot of you don't believe that I actually do live stream with an Olympus OMD EM1 Mark II. There it is with the smile reminder. And for all of you that can't keep up, the reminder to talk slower, right? So I can actually see my feed right there. There's all the replicating pieces. There's where I grab your comments from and drop them into the feed. And there's the browsers that you see when I go through my videos or through the TogChat group or any of that stuff, okay? But I know that's not what you're here for. Oh, and from a lighting standpoint, the main light is literally just an LED shop light. And the real sweet one right here is the specular star, okay? So this studio is in an old cigar factory. Literally, it is called the cigar factory because back in the day, it was a cigar factory. So you can see it's got, all the kind of old-fashioned brick with the paint peeling off and that. It's got a lot of kind of, a lot of atmosphere to it. There's a big heating duct that runs up across the top here. I'll share more for this or about this later for you guys, but you'll notice here are my seamless backdrops, and they are on a rope and pulley system. So I'll explain that in another video. So in case you're wondering, yes, that is a Godox AD-400. I picked up a few of them because this is a slightly larger studio space, but still using the AD-200s that you see up there. I've got one kind of almost 20-foot long white wall. So I'm able, if you can imagine, I'm able to shoot this way with these big windows behind me, right? Or I can come down here and turn around and shoot this way, and you can see the seamless right up there. So I've got a nice long run if I need it, or I can shoot across. In this area here, so this is the back of my desk area where we're live streaming from. This is the makeup area. I have not mounted the makeup mirror yet, but it's coming. My Savage seamless paper backdrops are on the wall right there. And just in case any of you get any crazy ideas, we do have a security system. There it is. It's also right back there. See that? Okay. And then since I didn't want to build anything right away and I wanted to have a chance to get to use the studio and get to know how I would like to use it, you'll notice this white area here. This is put together with Manfrotto / Bogan, whichever brand you prefer, auto poles. You can see the hardware for the auto poles there, but this is the changing area for the models. So they have plenty of space to change in. They have a mirror there where they can see themselves, all that good stuff. And everybody's favorite chair, the hand, okay? So that, my friends, is the new studio. Let's see if we can get me back on the screen there. There it is, okay. So there will be more to come. I will be sharing more about the studio as we go forward. But now you guys have at least seen it. You have an idea of what it looks like. So that being said, one of the questions that came in earlier today was from James Brown down in Florida. And whoops, sorry, let me get that on the screen here. He asked, what's it like to go from your home studio to a rented space? Well, you might be surprised at my answer, but the true answer is it's a pain in the butt. It's a huge pain in the butt, but at the same time, it's really, really, really awesome. So let me explain, right? In the home studio, I had to go down 2 whole flights of stairs to get to the studio. I mean, you know, 2 flights of stairs, but it was right there. I never had to worry about where's my gear, you know, how far do I have to travel, whatever. In this studio, while I love it, it is a 17-minute drive, door to door. The interesting piece is it's literally 2 roads, so it's actually super easy drive from my home, but it is a 17-minute drive. This building, which indeed is an old cigar factory that they have turned into artist studios. So there are other photographers in the building, there are artists, there's a yoga studio in here, all kind of cool stuff. It is in the downtown section of Allentown, Pennsylvania. Not the best neighborhood in the world, but nonetheless, you know, it's safe, it's functional. The people here around the building, in the immediate neighborhood, really awesome people, very, very friendly. So the pain in the butt part is just, you know, doing the drive back and forth, because I've had the luxury for almost 10 years now of working at home and not having to drive back and forth. My previous studio was 40 minutes away from where I lived, which was a heck of a drive. So these last couple weeks, it's been a little crazy in terms of just getting everything here, getting set up, and coming in to do a shoot and not realizing that I forgot something, right? Because that's happened a few times. I am going to keep both studios up and running. Fortunately, I have a lot of gear, so I'm able to do that. I did pick up a few little pieces here and there for this studio, but the nice part is I didn't actually have to go buy a ton of, you know, equipment. So no, I didn't just win the lottery. It's not like I suddenly got rich and, you know, went out and just bought tons of stuff. Most of this is stuff that I've had and have been using. So it is nice. It's almost like my home studio has gotten a little bigger because I've been able to get some stuff out of it, right? But still, all in all, this will be my primary studio. I originally was not going to bring the video stuff here. I was going to keep the video stuff at the home studio, and I was just going to do B-roll here when I shoot, that kind of stuff. But I finally decided, you know what? We're going to go for it. So I will forewarn you, as we go forward. It could happen tonight, it could happen anytime. As we go forward doing live streams from here, right outside my window, by the way, right now, there's people having a cookout. There's the loading docks in this factory. They've got a grill out there. They've turned it into like a really cool artsy patio. And I will give you guys, I'm going to do a video about the building and the studio, and I will give you a tour of the building. Every hallway you walk down, there is graffiti and paintings and murals. It's truly, truly awesome. And it's kind of very inspiring to come in here and to create because it's full of artists. But there will be noise. There occasionally are cars going by. There are people that live across the back alley that actually work on cars. So every now and then there's engines revving. There could be people walking down the hallway right outside. The tops of the walls on the inside walls don't go all the way up, so there's open space. So you never know, we might get visitors, we might have noises, but that's also kind of part of the fun and part of the energy of being in an artist loft and community of artist studios. So that's a new studio. So in terms of that, it's a pain in the butt to get used to, but I'm really enjoying it. In terms of having to spend the money, not enjoying that, but it's worth it. I've got a bigger space. I've got more ceiling height. I've got 14 feet ceilings now, which I was just a fraction under 8 feet in the home studio. So I've got a lot more space to work with, lot more space on the sides and that. I can actually shoot in 2 directions very effectively and very efficiently. So the fun part is kind of relearning some of my lighting routines because they work a little differently here. If you've followed along with me for the last couple of years, you know that in the smaller studio, everything was painted white because I used the walls as modifiers. The studio was actually a modifier for my light. So, now that changes a little bit. So it's been kind of a lot of fun, just getting in here and shooting setups, just to kind of get a feel for how everything is going to work in that regard. Lola, my mannequin, she will be arriving tomorrow. So she will be spending some time here and, helping out with workshops, which actually brings me to my next announcement. And then we'll get into the rest of the questions. So a lot of you for some time now have been asking if I would do workshops because it's been a long time. It's been probably about 8 years since I have run my own workshop. So now that I have the space, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give it a try. It's not the teaching part. Honestly, it's just the organizing part. And I'm sure you can imagine that, doing the workshops in my home, it just, with a lot of people coming in and out, it was a little tough. It's one thing when a model and a makeup artist come in and that's kind of it. But it's a little tough when you've got 5, 6, 8 people coming in for a workshop. So let me switch my screen over here and I'll give you guys the lowdown because the information is on my website. You can sign up now for these workshops. So actually, let's just go through the schedule real quick here. So there's a couple things that you really should know about. So July 26th, 27th, so less than a month away, I will be in Holland, Michigan for the Southwest Michigan Camera Club Council. I'll be presenting 2 days, Saturday and Sunday there. So I hope to see you, Friday and Saturday there. Hope to see you there. And then the big one, August 10th, I will be at Precision Camera Video down in Austin, Texas. And August 9th, Tracy McGlasky, my fellow Olympus visionary, will be presenting there. And for those of you that maybe follow along on Micro Four Thirds, it was pretty hysterical this week because there was a big rumor. There was a big rumor that Olympus was going to announce a brand new camera on August 10th. And it was going to happen at Precision Camera in Austin, Texas. Somewhere along the line, somebody saw the big press release that they did because they did a really cool press release and a neat web page for it. And they decided that it meant that Olympus was going to announce a camera. So I'm here to tell you, unfortunately, Olympus is not going to announce a camera on August 10th. But I will be there. Tracy McGlasky will be there on the 9th. It's going to be a great time. So hopefully you will be there. September 7th and 8th, I will be in Berkeley, California at Looking Glass Photo, both days teaching. September 14th, be back in New York City on the other coast doing a street fashion photo walk. But here's the workshop. Here's the first of the 2 that I'm going to do this fall. So the first one, it's a 2-day workshop, September 21st and 22nd. It's going to take place here in the new studio in Allentown, Pennsylvania. It is a portrait and lighting workshop. And as I have titled it, it is called a Portrait and Lighting Intensive. There will only be 7 attendees. It is a small group. It will be very heavy on shooting. This, I will tell you right now, is not a portfolio workshop. I don't want anybody to take this thinking, ooh, I'm going to be able to build out my portfolio with Joe Edelman's help. This is a learning workshop. Everybody that's coming will be going through a series of shooting exercises. They will be shooting a lot, but they will be doing shooting exercises. If you want to come and spend a weekend with me to build your portfolio and to do the really cool fashion portraits that I do, you should consider coming in October 12th and 13th. Again, it's a 2-day event for the 2-day fashion portraiture experience. This is, again, 7 people only for 2 days with makeup artists, with models. Each attendee will be creating, with my help and with the help of my makeup artist, will be creating their own unique fashion portraits with me as their mentor and assistant. So those 2 are coming up. Let me just post this link to the main page in the chat window so that you guys can check this out. Okay? And there you go. So I hope to see some of you there. I will tell you right now that if you sign up in the next 30 days, there is a $100 early bird registration discount. After that, the price goes up. All the information is on those pages. Check it out. Let's get back to our questions because I know that's what you're really here for, right? And I'll be posting on social media about that and sharing more information about that also, okay? So another question that came in earlier tonight before we got started from Peter. He'd like to know more about how to do great portraits at events and whether or not it's better to use speed lights or LEDs. So, you know, the challenge here, Peter, is when you combine the idea of shooting portraits and events, those 2 things don't usually work out well, right? Because people are at the event for a purpose. They're there to have a good time. They're there to run a marathon. They are there to celebrate somebody's retirement, whatever, right? It could be any of those things. So the challenge is they're automatically distracted and their attention is divided. When someone comes to your studio or hires you to do a portrait, you've got their attention, right? You have their focus. So you've got more control. At an event, it's hard to do portraits because even though you might get their attention for a moment, you don't have the time to really work that shot and really develop that portrait. So, you know, can you take, shall we say, candid portraits at an event? Absolutely. You know, that's like the head and shoulder shot. You know, hopefully the person looks at you, you catch them nicely, but you know, it's still very hit or miss, right? You don't have a lot of guarantees because you don't have a lot of control. That's the problem. So that being said, Peter, the one thing that I would encourage you though, you guys know that I'm a fan of LEDs. I do think LEDs have an incredibly bright future in the industry, but LEDs are not ready for this type of work that you're talking about, Peter, for a couple of reasons. Number one, LEDs have to be fairly bright in order to give you enough enough brightness to be able to record your images properly. That being said, they are extremely distracting at the event. And depending on the event, maybe they have a DJ there with colored lights and they're trying to set a mood and all that kind of stuff. And you're walking in with your bright white LED lights. That's just going to annoy people, right? Not to mention that those bright white LED lights can make people squint because they're going to be really bright because a lot of events happen in dimly lit situations and then you're going to turn these bright LEDs. So I definitely would not encourage you to go with LEDs yet for events. And especially not for portraiture at an event. Portraiture in a studio space like this, oh my God, sure, LEDs would be amazing, right? But not yet for events. So that being said, stick with speed lights for now. That's how I would approach that, okay? All right, next up here, John has a question. Whoops, sorry, I'm clicking the wrong button. Let's try that one more time. John's got a question here. John is asking, when balancing flash, whoops, let me get this out of the way so I can actually read all of it. There we go. When balancing flash with ambient light outdoors, I've heard some photographers say, use your flash in the manual mode for greater control. And then he's heard other photographers say, use TTL and underexpose your ambient light. Both are options, right? He goes on to say, here's of course where you all know the question goes south for me, right? This is from pro photographers on YouTube. He wants to know, would TTL be quicker in terms of saving money and saving time, and ease of use? And two, do you think both ways are okay, or is TTL just being lazy? He has very little experience with flash. So John, I'm going to give you the tough love answer first. And then I'm going to try and backfill that with a little bit more detail. The tough love answer, John, is get the heck off of YouTube, including right now, here. Go pick up your camera and try both of those options. And hopefully fail at both of them. And then pick up the camera again and work through solving the problem to get both of them to work. Because indeed, they do both work. But the fact that you are hearing photographers kind of pound their fists on the table and say it should be this way or it should be that way, that is simply their preferred methodology for working. Understand that the idea of underexposing the ambient light, those are the people that I call zombie photographers all the time because they saw it on YouTube just like you did. And because some guy on YouTube did it, they think they need to do it. They're not thinking for themselves. They're not being creative for themselves. They're just following along mindlessly like zombies do. So seriously, I would encourage you to do both. What I wouldn't worry about, John, is don't worry about the quicker and easier use aspect, because TTL is not necessarily quicker and easy to use. Especially if you start mixing in multiple flashes outdoors, TTL is not always going to give you the proper response. Remember, with TTL, it's still a machine. And something as simple as putting a rim light in the shot, it is hard for the camera to distinguish what's happening with that rim light. So it may get the face right, but it's really easy to have a rim light blow out the rim in TTL. So then you're having to dial in exposure compensation, which it would have been faster just to do it in manual. So don't let anybody tell you that TTL is wrong, because it's not. And don't let anybody tell you that TT is better, because it is not always. And the same statements go for manual. What you need to do is you need to try both. You should make your own decisions based upon the look that you like. Because by the way, the whole idea of underexposing the ambient light, John, you can do that in manual just as easily, right? The way that you should start out. So I'll give you your little starter tip, which you've probably heard this, John, if you were watching these guys on YouTube talk about this. What you do is, once you have your scene set and your model ready to go, turn your flash off or your trigger off and do a series of test shots to get the ambient light of the scene exposed the way you want it exposed. Whether it's properly exposed or underexposed, or hey, for that matter, slightly overexposed, that is a creative choice that is entirely up to you and what your eyes enjoy. But once you have that, then what you want to do is turn on the flash. And again, it doesn't matter if you're working TTL or manual, but you'll start to adjust to the power of that flash until you're bringing the light to the level that it looks appropriate on your subject with the levels that you have chosen for the ambient light. So you meter your ambient light first, set your exposure, and then you bring in the strobe to match what you've done with the ambient light. That's the way you want to approach it. But honestly, you're kind of thinking through the wrong pieces right now. Honestly, John, the best thing you do is pick up the camera, go try both. All right, and I'm not trying to be mean, but the goal is actually fail at it, because you probably will the first time. And if you are successful the first time, especially with the TTL, do understand that if you keep relying on the TTL, it will eventually bite you in the butt. You will walk into a situation where it's not going to respond properly. That doesn't make TTL bad. It just means that you, as the photographer, you have to learn your gear, and you have to learn what are the limitations of that feature, because it does have, TTL simply does have limitations, right? Okay. Alrighty. Next up here from Petrie. Let's see. Oh gosh, it's a watermark question. So he already knows I dislike watermarks. How do you feel about signatures and logos? Do you think it's different if you're an amateur or a professional? How about the form in which you publish the work? Like, I guess means maybe like your website compared to Facebook, right? Does this affect the decision whether or not to place a signature or a logo? So, Petrie, I will say that a signature or logo, for all intents and purposes, that's a watermark, right? It's the same thing. So I think maybe there's kind of a language difference between you where you are and me, but basically that's watermarking. It's putting text or some kind of an image over top of your photograph, right? So that's a watermark. So that being said, no, I'm completely opposed to it in all forms, period. I think it is obnoxious. I think it is petty. I think it is photographers who still need to go out and do the hard work, being lazy and trying to build a brand by being obnoxious. That's how I look at it. I will never change that statement, that mentality, unless there's something dramatically huge and unforeseeable that happens with the way the technology is today and my ability to thwart people from making money from my images online, because it's really not that hard. We've talked about it many, many times. And I will point out to you, as I always do, that the greatest photographers in the world, and I am not one of them, let's be really clear, I am not one of them, but the greatest photographers in the world do not watermark their images. Pick up your camera, practice, shoot, fail, shoot some more, fail some more, shoot and shoot and shoot and shoot, and develop a style that is so uniquely yours. People will know it's yours no matter whose name is on it. That's what you want to accomplish. That should be your goal as a photographer, okay? All right, next up here, question from Daryl. Actually, this one was left over from last week, and I apologize. Daryl says, if you have the time, he'd like for me to talk about the equipment that you use for your live broadcast from Ecamm Live, lighting, etc. So the good news is, Daryl, rewind, it's in this video. You saw it, okay? The way that I connect the camera to the computer, which is the only thing I didn't show you tonight, is a little gadget called CamLink from Elgato. There is a link to it in the description below the video. I have it linked there every week, so you can check that out. The camera is the OMD EM1 Mark II from Olympus. I'm using the 12mm f2.0, not the 1.2 Pro. There's no reason to do that for this type of setup. So it's much less expensive. The 12mm f2.0. I have the camera plugged into AC power, which does require the grip. So there is a grip on the camera, as you saw previously in the video. And I use a little gadget for my Sennheiser microphones. The microphones I use are Sennheiser wireless packs, okay? So there is a receiver on the other end here, and that's plugged into a recording interface, a USB recording interface that is called an Onyx Blackjack. If you watch really, really close when I showed the desk before, you'll see it sitting right underneath the monitor on the left of the screen, okay? All right, next up here, I got one more that's in here. This is a tough one, but we'll deal with it. So, Caleb, I have seen an increasing number of aspiring photographers make a goal of becoming an ambassador for their preferred brand of camera. This seems like a flawed measure of success to him, and I'd be curious to hear my opinion as a brand ambassador myself. So he goes on to say, even though you became an Olympus ambassador shortly after switching to their system, well, actually it's about a year after, but that's okay. I mean, you know, in the big scheme of my career, that's shortly, right? But it was about a year after, okay? He says he's inclined to think that the years of work that I put into the craft of photography itself, regardless of the fact that that was done with Nikon, contributed more to your worthiness as a representative rather than just simple enthusiasm for the gear. So there's so much to unpack there, Caleb. So much to unpack. So first of all, let me share this. I can tell you inside knowledge, not just from Olympus, but from Nikon and Sony, and people that I know that work in the marketing teams of both companies. They are inundated, and I mean inundated with requests. I want to be an ambassador. I want to be an ambassador. The ones that they love the most I'll switch to your camera brand if you make me an ambassador. The other ones they really like, I have 200,000 followers on Instagram and I post daily. I want to be an ambassador. Guess what? None of those people become ambassadors. None of them. They simply don't. The way you become an ambassador is the same way you get people to care about you on social media, properly care about you. You provide value. You simply do. You provide value. Certainly, am I the greatest photographer of the Olympus visionary team? Oh, hell no. I mean, you're talking people like Jay Dickman, Pulitzer Prize winner, National Geographic photographer, Larry Price, 2-time Pulitzer Prize winner, Mr. Scott Bourne, who is world famous for his bird photography and his eagle images, and the list goes on. I'm not the best photographer, but my value is I'm a really good photographer. I have 40 plus years of experience, and I'm pretty good at sharing that experience and being able to motivate people, being able to excite people about photography. And my brand that I have built on YouTube and on social media, I have what's referred to as influence because I'm honest with people. I don't get involved with the drama. I don't play games. I don't do stupid stuff. It's about helping people understand the hows and whys behind taking great photographs. So that's where my value comes into a company like Olympus. So, you know, sadly, people need to understand that if they want to be ambassadors and they want to be well known in their industry, they should get off the damn internet, go pick up their camera and shoot and shoot and shoot and shoot and shoot. Because all this work that I do, YouTube and social media and all this kind of stuff, it makes it really hard to find the time to shoot. So you've got people with 2, 3, 4 years experience, even 10 years experience, they want to be brand ambassadors. But the fact of the matter is they don't really have the experience. And let me tell you, some of these people are incredibly talented. But talent is nothing more, and please understand this for all of you, especially if you're good and you think you're good, because this is a lesson that was taught to me when I was a teenager. This was one of the kick in the pants that I got from my early mentors. Talent doesn't mean, and it was an S word when I was told, it doesn't mean squat. Talent is nothing more than potential. It's what you do with your talent and the time and effort that you put in that ultimately allows you to realize that potential. So you could say, I suck. It took me 40 years to become a brand ambassador. So I didn't do it in a year. You're right, Caleb. I brought a lot else to the table. It took me 40 years. So all these people that want it, and I see a lot of it, believe me, I see tons of it. I've seen articles this past week like in F-stoppers and all this ridiculous stuff. And you know, for the longest time, I would get really angry at these articles. Until I realized, I noticed something very recently. All the people that are writing these articles are like in their early 30s or younger. Meaning they're young, naive, and they're jealous of the older folks that have worked their butts off and have become successful. They just need to stop whining. They need to stop whining, put in the hard work. Do the work, get the rewards. It's real simple, right? That's just it, done. So I know that's not going to be a super popular answer with some people, but that's the answer. That's how it works, okay? All right, so I am into the chat window now. Let's dive in here. I'm going to scroll back. There were some that came in pretty early. From Malcolm Hoffman. Joe, which printer did you go with? And what is your opinion about its performance so far? Malcolm, I went here. I think I can bring it up on the screen. Did I say this? I did. I went with an Epson. It's not one of the cheapest ones, I'm not going to lie, okay? But it is, here, let me switch the screen. It's the Epson Sure Color. I'm going to take your question off the screen so you see all that. The Epson Sure Color P5000. I did go with the standard one. There's also a commercial edition that's available. But this is it. My performance with it so far, Malcolm, is awesome. I wish that I was using it more, but I'm still using it a fair amount. Have been really, really thrilled with it. The versatility is outstanding. It's great that I can now print 16 by 20 prints at home, so I'm thrilled with that capability. So yeah, I mean, all in all, I'm very, very happy with it. Okay. All right. And then following in the printing theme here, Adam asked, do I do much odd size printing, and how do you like to display those types of prints? Have you encountered, or he's been encountering panoramic images, any company that's best or better for printing them, mounting them, etc. So I don't do a lot of odd size stuff, Adam, but I do a fair amount of odd size stuff. Because remember, I shoot the majority of my images, wind up going into a 16:9 format for video. So I've really grown to feel very comfortable in the and no, some of you Olympus shooters are going to say, do you change the formatting camera? No, 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 no. That's post, okay? But I've grown to become very comfortable with the 16:9 format, which is kind of an odd size, so to speak, for printing. So that being said, you know, I've been doing most of my printing myself. Beyond that, most of the printing that I do get done that I don't handle myself goes to millers. And I've had experience in the last 5 years with 2 other labs that I had very good experiences with. One was Bay Photo, of course, in San Francisco. And the other one is a lab in Maryland, which is Nations Photo Labs. That's N-A-T-I-O-N-S, Nations Photo Lab. All of them did really good work with my stuff. I was very happy with the results. Okay? All right. So, James from Milford. Yes, it was great to meet you too at Unique. That event at Unique was awesome. It was my first time there at Unique Photo up in Fairfield, New Jersey. Incredible store, folks. If you're ever in the area, I would encourage you to go check it out, but really, really cool event. All right, so let's just scroll down here. Pinnacle Pete said, we know you're a big fan of Lindsey Adler, as we all are. How can you not be a fan of Lindsey Adler, right? I'm just wondering if you have asked her to be on your show. She's been on with Tony and Chelsea a couple times. I have not yet. My plan, in all honesty, I will be seeing her in a few weeks at another event, and I will discuss it with her. But Pinnacle Pete, as I've mentioned before, there's this interesting thing that happened with interviews. I started doing interviews, and lots of people were like, oh my God, we love the interviews. Please do more interviews. And the views started going, and super chats, tank, disappeared, all of it. Nobody paid any attention. I went back to doing Q&A, views go up, super chats start happening again. So that's not to say that I will never do interviews, I will. But instead of just trying to get as many people on to talk to as possible, there are a series of photographers that I ultimately would like to speak with. Lindsey is one of them. So that will happen over time. There will be interviews again, but you know, I'm ultimately going to follow where I get the most views. Sorry, and most views, you know, that is attributed to the most people watching and more people being content with what I'm doing. So that's what I will be pursuing. Okay. All right. Moving on down here, some more. Thank you guys for all the kind words about the new studio. I'm just going through that piece here. And I know there's a bunch of questions coming up. Cooley Priestley, do you have a business plan? Yeah, I mean, any photographer who is trying to make money that doesn't have a business plan is really begging to fail. I mean, it really is that simple. You have to have a business plan. So you guys know it's been about 3 years since I started doing this YouTube thing that I'm doing and teaching almost full time. I do very, very little client work at this point. Very little client work. I'm talking maybe 5 to 6 days per year. That's it. You know, this is after 43 years of shooting, okay? So, but that being said, I didn't just say, okay, I'm done, I'm gonna go teach. Are you kidding me? So I had to worry about how do I take a 6-figure income and replace that 6-figure income with teaching and doing YouTube and everything else. So there absolutely was a business plan. In my case, I gave myself 12 months. Unfortunately, I have a very supportive wife who said, okay, the plan looks solid, we'll do it. Let's give it a try. I had 12 months to be able to recoup, well, I shouldn't say recoup, excuse me, but to be able to replace my earnings. So that meant I was gonna lose, for 1 year, I was gonna lose a fair amount of money. I managed to get up to the level that I needed to be within 8 months. So I did a really good job by working my butt off. And 14 months after that, I had not only continued that process, but I had recouped the money that I lost, all of which was part of the plan. So I actually did it in a month and a half less than what I had planned out. So the plan worked, came together just fine, but you have to have a business plan. A business plan, folks, is not saying I want to be a professional photographer. That's my plan. No. A business plan is not saying I want to be a professional photographer and I'm going to shoot weddings. No. None of that is a plan. A business plan starts with literally, and I've talked about this for pricing because it's actually a pricing. It starts with, number one, know what kind of photography you are good at and want to do. Where's your passion lie? If you follow your passion and sell your passion, you'll never have to work, truly work, job work a day in your life. You'll bust your butt, but it'll never be a job. So you start there, and then you have to figure out how many days a year do you want to work, or how many weeks a year do you want to work? How many days a week do you want to work? How many hours in that week do you want to work? And that tells you how much you need to be earning. Then you sit down and you start to figure out, how am I going to earn that kind of money? What's it going to take? And that's obviously kind of the 30,000 foot view, Cooley, but yeah, you have to have a business plan. Incredibly important, okay? So let's see here. Terrence Ragland, what's the most economic solution that you found for blacklight portraiture? Can't afford the brown color UV strobe setup and you're currently using UV flashlights. Actually, I found a set of lights on Amazon recently because I've got a shoot coming up that I'm going to do blacklight stuff. Let me just see if I can find them here really quick. I may not be able to do it while we're live, but if you, no, I'm sorry, I can't. Well, here, maybe I can. Let's just try this really quick. I have a feeling it's not going to come up for, oh, yes, actually it did. So here we go. How about that? Surprise, surprise. Let me switch this over. These are 30 watt ones that you're seeing here. So be clear, full disclosure, I actually have 60 watt ones. Or excuse me, not 60 watt, 100 watt ones. So they're bigger, but they look very similar to this. They're the rectangular shape. I've done a set of test shots with them, just with Lola to see, how everything would work, because, I just have a micro four thirds camera. So a lot of people were like, oh, that's not going to work well. Yeah, good luck with that. It works just fine. So yeah, I went with 100 watt versions. They work great, but I have not actually done the shoot yet, full disclosure. So it's coming. But I would say start there, Terrence. Yeah, the stuff that's actually made for photography, like that brown color stuff, you're going to pay through the nose for that. I mean, you just are. So, all right, Michael's question here. What's your take on using premium equipment versus some of the Chinese knockoffs? He's interested mostly in lighting, strobes, flashes, etc. Michael, for the most part, generally it's called you get what you pay for, right? So, the key word or phrase in that sentence is knockoffs, okay? The stuff is usually not as well made. It's usually missing features, etc. That being said, every now and then, there's an exception, right? Godox. Godox started as a knockoff brand and got their act together, really paid attention to the industry, really took the time to learn how photographers work and what photographers need and want. And, they've built themselves a huge powerhouse, okay? So it really depends on what you're doing. Now, like for instance, C-stands. Those C-stands that you see back there, they're newer Chinese knockoffs, okay? And they're great. Solid as all get out. The way in which I will use them, they're awesome. And they're about $70 cheaper than Kupos, okay? So, in that sense, you kind of have to pick and choose a little bit, Michael. But I have found generally if it's electronics, better to go with a premium. If it's hardware, just make sure you're not cheaping out too much and you're usually going to be okay. Like a lot of my grip gear, spigots for light stands and mounting pieces and that type of stuff, I will definitely go with the Chinese stuff because it's dramatically cheaper. So you kind of have to pick and choose that a little bit, okay? Let's see. Terrence, what is at the end of those repeating windows? Just a wall. I'm not sure exactly what you mean there, but if you mean the windows that were back here when I walked around, yeah, it's just, there's 3 of them on this side, and then there's 2 of them up here, and then there's the 2. So the ones that are on this side of me when I walked around, these are north facing. For those of you that aren't familiar with why north facing is so great for photographers, north-facing windows never get direct sunlight. So at no point during the day does sunlight stream through this window. It just doesn't happen, right? These two windows are east-facing. So they only get direct sunlight hitting the floor until about 9:30 a.m. in the morning. And if you follow me for a while, you know that I don't shoot that early. So it's never a problem, right? So I never have a situation with these windows where if I want to put a model in here, there's going to be sunlight streaming across her face, which is awesome, okay? So yes, if you ever go looking for a studio place somewhere or a studio space somewhere and you can find one with windows, windows are great to work with. North-facing windows are the best because they never get direct sunlight, okay? All right, let's see. Pinnacle Pete. I've been using Olympus software since day one to convert my raw ORF files, but I keep hearing a lot of good things about Capture One and would like to try it. So Pinnacle Pete, are you asking for like my blessing to go try it? Pfft, go try it. I wouldn't buy it right away. They have, it's a 15-day or a 30-day free trial. Use that. It really depends on what you're shooting, Pinnacle Pete, and what your output is. Understand that Capture One software is strictly a raw generator. That's all it is. I shouldn't say that's all it is, because it is indeed. It's the best raw generator on the market. However, do keep in mind that the Olympus software is going to do the best job of any software when it comes to managing the Olympus files and managing the color on the Olympus files. Just does, right? So, you know, it's kind of a balance in that sense. But as far as like, you know, hey, you want to try it? Go try it. Go for it. Yeah, I mean, it is great software. It's very powerful software. If you follow me for a while, I used to use it religiously when I was an Nikon shooter. Since I've gone over to Olympus, at first, if you go back and you watch my videos, and you watch my social media posts, I was using it at first because that was my workflow. That's what I was used to. And I started to realize I didn't need it. So I've stopped using it at this point, but not because I don't like it, not because it's not good. It's great, but I just don't need it for my workflow. So there was no sense in me, you know, spending that additional money and going through those extra steps. Okay. Let's see here. Adam, so you're duplicating and still shooting from home too? I will be. Yeah, I mean, right now everything is happening here because I want to really get in a groove with this. But if I just need to do a nice headshot or something, sure. There's no reason not to do it at home. I don't need all this space, you know, to do that. Okay. So, this is kind of an inside joke, but it's actually a really good one. Kenneth Preston, sorry to ask, but where is the ham radio desk? I had to put this up on the screen just in case Doug watches this video. Yeah, Ken, unfortunately, I did not leave space for the ham radios in my studio, okay? All right, scrolling on down here. Let's see, Spinning Wheels Photography. I like the studio. I really like the wood floors and the brick walls. Thank you. That's actually a great thing to point out. So I want you guys to notice here, I'm actually gonna move this up to the top, and I'm gonna come back here. So this is a really old wooden floor. Here, I'll duck down, right? It's a really old wooden floor, which means it's not smooth and flat. So when those seamless rolls come down, if I have somebody walk on this wooden floor, or I should say walk on the seamless roll on this wooden floor, it's gonna wind up creasing and buckling the paper. So what I did is I went to a discount store, and for $15, I bought 2 of these. I got a roll of vinyl flooring that is a little over 8 feet wide. So it's almost the same width as the seamless paper roll. And I can put those down on the floor. And this way now, here, let me go ahead and take this off the screen. When I roll the seamless down, it comes across the vinyl flooring. I can have a model walk on it, and it doesn't cause any buckling. There's just enough, you know, depth and support in the vinyl that it prevents the paper from getting damaged in the process. So again, one of those things that you have to think of in terms of problem solving, right? I didn't want to refit, because I could have. I mean, if I wanted to spend the money, they would let me refinish the floors. These floors are like really, really old, and they're kind of cool. And I wanted to be able to use them at some point. So I wanted that flavor. I didn't want to take that away and have to recreate it and smooth everything out. So the vinyl does great. So I bought 2 of them. It's dirt cheap. I leave them stacked up in the corner when I don't need them. And then when I do, I go ahead and, I bring them down. And I went with something that was predominantly white. Why? Gives me a fill, right? So the color is important. Don't go pick some weird color, because then you can only put it under your seamless. If I'm doing a portrait shot and I want to have my lights high and pick up a little fill, I can use that. So again, there's kind of dual benefit to that. So you got to think that stuff through, gang, before you make those decisions. Okay. Let's see, John Cumber here. Any chance in the future of doing a show with Gavin Hoey? He's a great photographer and Olympus guy. I'm trying. So Gavin is an awesome guy. In fact, Gavin listens to my show on Thursdays when he does his editing. All right. So Gavin, when you hear this, my viewers would love to see you on TogChat. I've asked Gavin before, and to be fair, gang, remember, he is a very busy man. In fact, he was just here in the States very recently, okay? But I'll give him a lot of credit. One of the things that he does not like doing, he does not like doing interviews that are the kind of canned, how did you get started in photography? How long have you done this? How long have you done that? He is more interested in doing an interview that's going to help somebody. So we have discussed it. We have talked about it. It's really a matter of kind of getting the schedules to, to line up. But hopefully Gavin will hear this tomorrow, and maybe we can move things along a little bit. But I would love to have Gavin on here. I'm still keeping my fingers crossed that at some point I get to go over to the UK and teach with him, or for that matter, I'd love to go and just attend one of his workshops. His workshops are like to die for. So, all right, let's see here. Scrolling down. Art in the dark. In flash photography, why do TTL, which I don't care to shoot in, allow better ambient light to show versus shooting in manual with a slow shutter speed and using second rear curtain? Well, so first of all, art in the dark, you're kind of arguing this is the way I like to work compared to the way somebody else works. You can do that if you want. The only thing I'll take exception to, don't use the second rear curtain. Just use the rear curtain, period. Like I'm assuming you just mean use rear curtain, right? Yeah, default flash settings. The whole, which curtain settings do I use? Leave the camera on default for 99.9% of what you're gonna do, gang. Like seriously, okay? Are there reasons to switch it? Yeah, but not for the kind of stuff that we're talking about. He was talking about doing, photographing people outside, right? So keep it simple, gang. Keep it simple. Life is much better that way. It just is. Let's see, Steve Wilking, your mannequin's name is Emma from the movie, of course. Oh my God, okay, so you seriously just dated yourself, and so did I, because I acknowledge that I know it, right? Okay, so Judy, yes, workshops, very awesome. So you're gonna come to Allentown, Judy? Let's see, Terrence, where did I find the mannequin? Amazon, amazon.com. I shared that link a whole bunch of times here. Let me see if I can find it. I'll get you the link. Like super cheap, Terrence. Less than $70 if I'm not mistaken. So the big thing about getting the mannequins, by the way, though, oh wow, look at that, on sale, $45. Okay. So here, let me get you the link, and I will post it in the chat window here. Make sure when you buy a mannequin, don't buy one that's got a painted face. You want to buy one that actually has depth, like it has a nose, has a chin, has cheeks and cheekbones. Otherwise, it's really not going to do you much good from a learning curve. Okay, so there's the link in there for Lola. Okay, that's what she looks like. So you can check that one out. Okay, let's see. So Art in the Dark followed up here. If you notice that there's a difference though, he seems to get more ambient light in TTL without slowing the shutter speed. You know what? Maybe you are, but honestly, who cares? Like, what are you photographing that you can't slow the shutter speed? the way, all I'm trying to get at, Art in the Dark, is the way you're approaching this question is like a mandatory type thing, right? We don't know what you shoot. We don't know why you shoot it. We don't know how you like to shoot it. We can't look at that. So to say, why not do this compared to this? No, that's not a statement that I will accept or entertain. If it works for you, do it, right? Nobody said you should stop. But the point is, you know, the other person was shooting portraits outside. He doesn't need half of that crap. And honestly, I wouldn't do the TTL. If TTL is working for you, then man, knock yourself out with TTL. But the fact of the matter is, it will eventually fail you. And then you're going to spend more time adjusting the hour output on the TTL than if you would have just worked it in manual, period. Okay? So again, there is no one right way to do photography, gang. The only right way is, do you and your subject or client like the finished product? Please, 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 please. Okay? So let's see, Pinnacle Pete, how well does that portable air conditioner in Studio 2 work? Can it possibly cool that entire room where you just move it around? Actually, it works great, except for right now. I am hot as all get out. It is 83 degrees in this room because I turned it off right before I came in. So yeah, it's an artist loft, so the building is not air conditioned, but it works awesome for my space. It's a bigger one and works really, really well. Keeps the room right around 70, 71 degrees, which is awesome. But indeed, I turned it off to go live because otherwise it would be really, really noisy. What I may do next week is locate it to a distant window. But yeah, I mean, it's not a big deal. So I will turn it back on again before I leave. It'll cool the space down fairly quickly. Okay? All right. So scrolling back up here. So you asked about how old is it? I'm sorry. No, I'm confused. Sorry. Let me scroll back up. Okay. So let's see. Judy. All right. I'll expect to see you in 2020, Judy. That's okay. Let's see. Sliding up. I know I missed a couple up here. Steve is asking, you're looking at upgrading to the Godox. What trigger is everybody using? You have an M1 Mark II. You want to use flash and strobes. Any recommendations? I like the Pro X. You know, they have a new one now, but you know, this is the second generation of the triggers. There's a third generation now that's got some modifications, but it's not like it's a huge change. Works absolutely great for me. So I have two of these, one that stays in the studio, one that travels with me when I, you know, go out for Olympus and do talks. And to be honest with you, there's only really two big upgrades. Now, some people are going to get nitpicky here. Yeah, there's a bunch of different upgrades. But the two biggest upgrades from this one to the really cheap one, the one that's like $49, is on the cheap one, the LCD panel's kind of on the end of it, and it's kind of small. And when you do the thumb dial, it's kind of jumpy. If you're not in a hurry, it works great. You don't have to spend more money. But if you want something that's a little bit more efficient, easier to read, then yeah, that would be the X Pro or the new one, okay? Let's see here, scrolling on up. Reet Vars, any tips for posing two girls for portraits? Are they both gonna be in the same picture? Because a portrait is usually one person. So describe to me a little bit more, Reet Vars, about what this picture is. Like, give me the context of the photo. Is this like one of those, here's two hot babe kind of pictures? Or are they sisters and we're just trying to take a nice picture for mom? What are we doing, right? Because that's going to have a huge impact on how you pose them. Be careful about asking such generic questions. When you ask broadly generic questions like that, it's kind of lazy. And I'm not trying to pick on you. I want to teach you something, please. Because all you're going to get back is a bunch of opinions based upon what somebody else does. It's kind of like this debate we've been having about TTL tonight. People dig in their heels right away. It's like, oh, this is the better way to do it. Well, maybe for them it is, and for what they shoot and for the way they shoot. Right? But posing two girls and portraits could be a ton of different scenarios. So give me a little bit more background and I'll come back and I'll tackle that, okay? Let's see, Terrence, so those were the UV lights you were looking at? Awesome, man, very good. So let's see, from Steve, the interview thing got me thinking, what about a photography history influence within Tog Knowledge, as this would be knowledge of the photography topic? So actually, Steve, in Tog Knowledge, for those of you that don't know what Tog Knowledge is my learning community that it would be great to have you as members of. You can become a member of Tog Knowledge for as little as $2 per month, okay? There are discussion forums, downloads, discounts, there's a member directory, all kind of really cool stuff. It's kind of like our own little community in there. It's growing every day. We do weekly Friday Zoom chats where we have one-on-one conversations with anybody that wants to show up in the community training or advanced levels. We're going to be doing monthly webinars. Ran into a big problem with the webinar this month. It was the first one I was going to do, and the folks at Zoom, or I should say the sales guy at Zoom, kind of sold me up the river on the way their technology worked, and it wouldn't do what he told me it would do. So changing directions a little bit, going to use a different piece of software, but we'll be doing like a 1-hour lesson every month. It's kind of more of an advanced lesson. So a lot of cool stuff coming up there. But Steve, to answer your question, in the Tog Knowledge forum, we did start a thread in there about famous photographers and just, you know, kind of photographers that you admire, just to share, to say, hey, go look at this photographer's work, just, you know, to get a sense of kind of who they are and what they are and have discussions about them. So we're kind of working in that direction a little bit. That is in there, okay? Let's see here. Michael. Waiting for a back-ordered EM1 Mark II. Can you talk to the dual card slot usage? Sure, Michael, but what do you want to talk about, man? I'm sorry, this is like, it's another one of those like really, really broad questions. So it's got 2 card slots. I'm not a 2 card slot guy. I don't worry about it. Only the first card slot in the EM1 Mark II is the high speed for like 4K video. The other one is just a regular slot. Okay, on the EM1X, both card slots are the high speed. But like, I'm not really sure, you know, where's your question? So there's talking about it, there it is. But, and that's how I use it. I don't worry about it. You know, all this hype, I mean, you know, Olympus ambassador, but allow me to defend Nikon and some of those other companies here. Everybody freaking out about the 2 card slot thing, like, get over it. Like, does it make sense to have 2 card slots? Is it a bad thing to shoot backups? No, not at all. It's actually probably a pretty smart thing. But in all my career, I have never had a card fail on me because I took the time to read the directions. And I took the time to understand and learn and ask questions to make sure that I realized, how do these cards work? And how do you make them corrupt and how do you make them fail? Because if a card's going to fail for you, it's going to fail the first time you use it. If it's a bad card. If it fails after that, it's user error. The only exception to that statement is if the camera has a problem and shuts down in the middle of saving a file. That could corrupt the card. But that would mean the camera did it itself. That doesn't include you turning the camera off while it's still saving to the card, okay? So yeah, I mean, I don't actually need, but Michael, if you give me some more detail, I will gladly try and you know, fill that in, okay? Per Luigi, here, wait a minute, let me get rid of this one on here. I know I'm a bad guy. I bought a Canon EOS R. Not a bad guy at all, but see, now, per Luigi, I don't want to meet you in a dark alley. Because in about 6 months, after lugging all that camera gear, you're going to have like big muscles, man. Okay, like you'll be a strong man. No, I'm kidding. Hey, if it meets your needs and you're happy with it, enjoy it, man. Enjoy it. Steve L., which papers am I using? If you mean for my backdrops, Savage Universal. If you mean for printing, I use all the Epson papers. I haven't gotten into exploring all the other brands. That's a whole science in and of itself. And unfortunately, I don't have the time. I mean, I wish I did, but I just don't. So I stick with the Epson stuff because it's made for the printers and it's just easy, right? It's kind of one of those things like it works and I like that, okay? So that's kind of my approach here. So let's see. Oh, God. There's the question that I knew was coming. Matt Dusts. So here, I want to scroll down to the end. Kyle Watkins is here. Kyle, how you doing, man? How's it feel being a graduate? So first of all, I will talk about this briefly. I don't want to spend a lot of time, but I knew this question was going to come up. I actually had a couple people email me, 2 people message me on Facebook earlier today. So let's go ahead and get out of the way. But I want to be really clear. I'm watching the comment thread in the chat window right now. keep your opinions to yourself. I'm asking you with respect. If anybody's going to get in here and make any kind of nasty comments about either party in this question, I'm just going to bounce you out of here, right? So I'll deal with the question because I know a bunch of you are aware of it and have followed it, yada, yada, yada. So his question is, what's your opinion on Ken Wheeler and the accusations on Jason Lanier? Are you aware of the situation? As an experienced model photographer, your opinion is very valuable. So, here's the problem. Really, Matt, my opinion is not valuable. And here's why. Good, bad, or otherwise, Ken Wheeler has accused Jason Lanier of behavior that is potentially illegal. Okay? Now, wait, let me be really clear. I'm sorry. It's important that we get the facts right here. Ken Wheeler has not accused Jason of this. One of Jason's models accused Jason of this, and Ken is kind of being the policeman of the situation and making it very public. That being said, okay, my opinion doesn't matter. If it is indeed a legal situation, then it should be dealt with by the law. I think we all have to keep a very open mind here, gang. All right? So for those of you that don't know what's happening here, I will give you just a little piece of the backstory. You can go do your own research, all right? But it's no secret that Ken Wheeler, the angry photographer, and Jason Lanier have not gotten along for years, even though they did that meetup, I think, in Kentucky, where Jason flew there to meet with Ken, and they spent the day together and took pictures, and were very civil with each other. It very quickly, their relationship devolved not long after that, and it has just continued to get worse and worse and worse, okay? So that being said, I know Ken Wheeler in the sense that I have talked to him on the phone. I have had conversations with him. I have never met Jason Lanier. I've made no secret in the past that I take exception to some of the things that he teaches and some of the ways that he teaches. But the simple fact of the matter is, he is an accomplished photographer. He's a very good photographer. Additionally, the fact of the matter is, the people that take his workshops, I have yet to hear anybody say, I thought his workshop sucked. All I hear is that people enjoy learning from him. That being said, okay, very recently, Ken started sharing some Instagram posts from a few models, one of which accused Jason of some things that are literally against the law, okay? Jailable offenses. Shortly after that, my understanding, I personally have not gone back and looked, but my understanding is that original post was removed from this young lady's Instagram after Ken kind of blew it up. A day or two ago, Jason released an hour-long video trying to set the record straight. I don't think that he helped himself. In fact, if he truly is working with an attorney, which he says he is, he either has a very bad attorney or he is ignoring that attorney's advice, because no attorney in the world is going to recommend that he goes and makes that video and posts that video. It wasn't scripted. It is somewhat rambling. He admits a lot of poor decisions, not any of the things that he's being accused of. Let me be very clear. But he admits poor decision in some of the business choices he made and some of the people that he worked with. And I would tend to agree. From what we're seeing now, he picked some really, not great people to work with, okay? But at the same time, there's two sides to every story, right? So, those not great people, as he puts it, they obviously feel the way they feel, and there's more than one of them. So ultimately, what I would love to say about this gang is this. As much as I like Ken as a human being, I wish Ken would worry about Ken. These young ladies went public with their information. At no point was it or is it Ken's responsibility to police the internet and to trash another photographer's career. You guys know that I have disagreements with the way some other photographers and other YouTubers do things, but I make it very, very clear it's not about trashing them. You know, I talk about Tony Northrup all the time. I wish he'd stop doing his dramatic "the world is ending" gear videos. And I wish he would teach, because he is a knowledgeable person and a good teacher. So that's a reasonable dispute. But making accusations about someone's character and making accusations about legal scenarios where literally you could truly destroy a person's career and life, like him or not, Jason Lanier is a married man with 2 teenage boys. No man deserves the treatment that he's been getting from Ken Wheeler. If indeed these young women had these experiences, they should not be posting them on Instagram. I want to be really clear, folks. We are in the middle of the Me Too era, right? I support that. But the court of public opinion is not the place to take this information. And these young women, if Ken Wheeler wants to provide help, he should be helping them go to the police and then stepping back and letting the legal authorities deal with whatever has to be dealt with, if there's something to be dealt with, right? For the rest of us, you know, I think we should focus on photography, gang, right? That's really the key. Let's focus on photography. All the drama is not helping any of you become better photographers. It's just not, okay? Ken and Jason are never going to get along, right? There's not going to be a kumbaya moment with the two of them. It's not going to happen. And so who knows how many more videos there will be? Who knows how many lawsuits there will be? Who knows who wins or loses, and who really cares, right? Now, full disclosure, I should tell you guys, I was never a big fan of soap operas, right? I just wasn't. So, you know, I think we all ought to focus on photography. But the thing does not get lost in the middle of all this. Please. So I guess this is what I should have said in the first place and then just shut up, okay? Because I know I made that rather long. This should not be dealt with on the internet. It should not be dealt with on YouTube. These young ladies, if their accusations are valid, and I have no reason to think that they're not, I don't know them. So it's not up to me to judge. It's not up to any of you to judge. But they should then be talking to the police. They should be talking to the police, and it should be investigated. That is not Ken Wheeler's position. And Jason shouldn't be online defending himself. He should be defending himself in a court of law and dealing with things that way. And indeed, you know, I do support, if all of this is unfounded, let's be clear, if all of this is unfounded, I support Jason in the idea that he should take legal action to restore his reputation. If he didn't do this, folks, only if he didn't do it, no man deserves what's happening to him right now. And if he did do it, he deserves everything he's got coming to him. But that is not for Ken Wheeler to decide. It's for the police. I know Ken means well. I want to be really clear. I know Ken means well, right? People seem to love or hate Ken, and I understand that. He's an interesting guy, right? He just is. Fact of the matter is, he means well. I'm just not sure that I agree with the approach that he's taking. That's all. Okay. So you know, I hope that helps, gang. But honestly, I don't think it's ultimately any of our business. You know, just not. So. All right, scrolling back up here, let's get to some questions. We still got about 15 minutes. Cool. Robert, what printer do I use? I use the Epson here. Oh, did I close it? I closed it. It's the Epson SP5000. I had it on the screen a little bit earlier. So when you get a chance, if you rewind, it's the short color SP5000. You'll be able to see it, and the link and everything is there. So okay. Jose, which workspace do you use? SRGB or Adobe RGB? Adobe RGB all the way. I shoot Adobe RGB in camera. I process in Adobe RGB, and then I convert to SRGB when I'm saving for the web. Everything else is in Adobe RGB. Especially now, you know, it's even more important that I'm doing more printing now. People would argue, well then, since you're printing, why not do Pro RGB? I've never been able to see enough of a difference to make it worth my while. And to be really clear, folks, you're not going to see a huge difference between sRGB and RGB. So if any of you are shooting strictly sRGB across the board and even sending prints out, don't panic, don't panic. Don't rush out and start thinking, oh my God, my prints suck. Relax. The differences are very, very, very minor, but there is a difference, yes. So I kind of split it down the middle. I go with Adobe RGB. That's my workflow. So let's see here, scrolling up. The Dan Palin, do you know anyone personally that is using the EM1X for cinematography? So since you're saying cinematography, you mean like hardcore stuff. Personally, no, Dan, I don't. Are there people? Yes. In fact, Olympus has featured a few of them in some of their marketing, so you can check them out. I use the EM1X for a lot of B-roll, but I hate to call that cinematography, right? Just being honest. But on a personal level, I can't say that I do. I can say that, especially with built-in image stabilization, who needs a gimbal, right? So it's pretty impressive in that sense, okay? Let's see, Carl Liverpool, can the Godox V1 be used with the X1 trigger? I believe so, but do me a favor, Carl, before you make a purchasing decision based on that, go check it out. I don't have a V1, so I don't know for a fact, but I'm pretty sure they are all universally interchangeable in that regard, okay? All right, let's see, scrolling back up here. James Wong, not a question. You tattooed Olympus to your arm, no chance of switching brands, huh? And what other tattoos you have? So I told this story once before. When they sent me the contract to become a visionary, it had the words brand ambassador at the top, but I was excited. You guys might have noticed I'm a little type A. I thought it said brand the ambassador, so I ran out, got it done. When I came home, I read the contract, and it was kind of an oops moment. But seriously, I am to this day the only Olympus visionary in the world that has Olympus branded on them. And the folks in the UK thought it was cool enough that for April Fool's Day this year, they actually had temporary tattoos made. And they did this whole video of two of their visionaries going to a tattoo parlor and getting tattooed. And then you could sign up online and they sent you temporary tattoos of the Olympus logo. So that was kind of cool. So my other tattoos, one is actually an old logo that I had. It's an aperture in a frame. The other one is Smile. And this one, which I've got partly covered it, but it's two hands doing that. That's the other one, okay? All right. So let's see here. Scrolling on up here. Chuck Hill, did I get your message about how to make a large file, 72 inches on the long side? I did, and I'm trying desperately. I do it so infrequently, Chuck, but I will get you some information. It's the software that's put out by Nick that I would use for upresing. The last time I had to upres anything, that's what I used. When I did the billboard, I didn't have to handle any of that. But I will tell you guys, like literally, the billboard, which I swear to God, no baloney, it's tack sharp. I have pictures of it. I've shown pictures to prove that. The image that I submitted for the billboard was only 5,000 pixels wide. That was it. And it's 48 feet wide now. But for me, I've always used the Nick software. So yeah, I will catch up with you before the week's out, Chuck, and I'll get you the information on that software if you don't already know it at this point, okay? All right, back down to the end here. Let's see if any of these folks followed up. Arnold's here. How we doing, Arnold? So David, talking earlier about the Chinese knockoffs and that you have the newer C stands in your studio, what features do you look for when looking for a sturdy light stand? So when buying light stands, there's a couple simple things, right? Number one, how well is it made, okay? Number two, what weight is it designed to support? So even if you buy your light stands on Amazon inexpensively, right? All you gotta do is look at the specs and it will tell you designed to hold a light that is this, heavy. But you need to apply a little physics, right? So if you're gonna take, let's say your stand's set up for 6 pounds and you put a Godox AD-B2 on it, which is like less than 3 pounds, and you put an umbrella on it, a big umbrella, but that umbrella, it only weighs 3 pounds, so you're right at the 6 pound limit. But since it's a big umbrella, the force on that stand is gonna be a lot greater than 6 pounds, right? It's the physics. So that's part of the reason for going with the heavier C stands in here because, remember in my home studio, I had a ceiling that was, very low. So in this studio, here, let me just grab, where did I put? I was gonna show you an umbrella here, but for some reason, I am not finding it. Oh, wait a minute, is it here? Touch back here, there it is. So in this studio, since I have more space. Like I did a shoot in here yesterday with some promotional images for me. And so, you know, obviously you're not going to use an umbrella this big in a 7-foot studio. But even though this thing only weighs about 2.5 pounds, it's very light. Once you take that out on the end of a stand, if your stand's only rated for 6 pounds, it's going to buckle the stand, right? So it's all about how much weight, and it's all about how tall it goes. You know, is the stand going to be tall enough for where you intend to use it? In my home studio, I didn't need real tall stands. 7-foot stands were more than adequate, right? Having a 10 or a 15 or 20-foot stand was like completely pointless because I didn't need that kind of height, okay? All right, let's see here. Jeff Decker, have I ever ventured in or played with infrared or UV photography? Now, a little bit of blacklight stuff, but like on the UV side, but that's it, man. Nothing infrared, nothing like that. It's never really interested me. I find it cool. I know one of my fellow Olympus visionaries, Jamie McDonald, he's got an Olympus camera that's converted, and every now and then he takes it out and does some really cool stuff with it. Just not my thing. So I love the images, but I just don't have a kind of a reason or a purpose to do it. So, okay. Let's see. Mike, have you had a chance to play with the Godox AD-B2 dual power twin head Bowens mount? That's a mouthful. Yes, I do have one. Let's see. Where's it at here, Mike? If you're talking this guy, yeah, so I have one. You really don't need it, but I've used it like once. So I just don't need the power. So now somebody might ask me, well, I said I don't need the power and I just bought the AD-400. So I have 3 AD-400s that I bought for in here because of the bigger space. But still, so far, the majority of my shooting in here, I haven't had those AD-400s over like an 1/8 power, which means the AD-200s will get the job done. So yeah, I mean, it works. Basically, you're putting 2 AD-200s together. You're getting approximately 400 watt seconds. So, you know, it's quite a bit more powerful. But yeah, it's not something that I think most people need to rush out and buy, though. I really don't. So let's see. Boy Kennels. Do you find that having to do portraits 3/4 at most in a 7-foot by 6-foot space is tough? Yeah, it's tough, but it's doable, right? You're going to have to work with a shorter lens. And you're going to have to be a little bit more creative with your lighting. If you can, if it's your space, if you have control of the space, I would paint it white. That's the first thing. And then the other thing is, don't be afraid, if it's a low ceiling, don't be afraid to do bounce flash. In other words, go back and look through a lot of the videos that I did in my home studio. Even though it was a bigger shooting space, you'll notice most of my setups are very, very small. So you would be able to do a lot of that stuff in a space of that size. It's completely doable, okay? So let's see here. Steve L., a few words about proper etiquette when working with models. You know, this comes up all the time, Steve. And so, Steve, I'm not picking on you, right? This, to me, is one of the dumbest questions that I hear. I'm not picking on you. You're not the only person to ask this question. I can't tell you how many times I see articles on the blogs, I see all kind of crazy stuff about this. And it's just a crazy question. Here's why. Why are we asking what is the proper etiquette when working with models? Isn't the real question, and the reason I say it's a dumb question is because you should know the answer to this. Models, the last time I checked, you know, unless you shoot pets, okay? Models are human beings. Most of us, when we're talking about models, not all of us, but most of us, when we're talking about models, we're talking about young women. So isn't the better thought process, what is the proper etiquette for dealing with a young woman? All this crazy stuff that you see going on between, and not just the Jason Lanier stuff, but if you go to a website like Model Mayhem, you look in the discussion forums and all the crazy crap that people are talking about, that is simply people. I hate even to call them photographers, but it's people. Or as they say in Model Mayhem, GWCs, guys with cameras. That is guys with cameras not treating people properly. It's got nothing to do with models. It's about treating people properly. Just is, right? Kevin, thank you so much for the super chat, man. Really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much, okay? So let's see, where are we at here? 7:25, right, I got 5 minutes. Let's see if I can get a couple more in here. Steve, I know that's not exactly what you're looking for, but that is honestly the answer that you need to hear. I mean, it really is, okay? There's no special etiquette for models. The etiquette is, remember that that person that you're working with is a human being, a young human being in most cases. You handle that, you'll do just fine, okay? Gregory, is a comp card a separate request or should it be included in a model's portfolio, and how can I find a mentor? Most agencies today, Gregory, are doing away with comp cards. There's really no need for them because there's this thing called the internet. A comp card is a byproduct of a model's portfolio, right? Model shoots a portfolio, and then we would take 5 of the best images and make, sometimes 6, but usually 5, and make the comp card from that. And as far as finding a mentor, the best thing to do is find somebody that's local to you. You know, obviously, I will point out you can join Tog Knowledge, community like mine. Go take a look at it. Look at the membership levels. You'll see that there are various amounts of access that you get to me. So I want to explain, folks, just so you know, that the Tog Knowledge website that I'm showing you, it's not like a learning website where there's all kind of lessons. Never going to be lessons there. Not going to happen. What you're doing is you're gaining access to various levels of me for various amounts of time. So each level gets you a little bit more access to me and what I'm creating, and basically to be able to work with you on a mentoring type basis. So, you know, I would tell you, you know, Gregory, take a look at Tog Knowledge. And here, folks, I'll put the link in the chat window for you. But then, you know, beyond that, find somebody local that's doing the kind of work that you're doing. And, you know, ask them simply, whoops, I clicked on the wrong button there. There we go. I'm back. And ask them. So, Eric, thank you so much, man. I appreciate the super chat. Thank you. So, let's see here. I got a question that apparently I missed earlier from Spinning Wheels Photography. Do I have plans for any new DIY projects? Oh, yeah, there's always plans for DIY projects. Yeah, and that most of them are not studio based. I mean, they could be used anywhere. So yes, there are a couple DIY things that will be coming up for sure. Okay. Let's see here. Joe, I just started experimenting with backdrops. The wife wanted to use a certain vinyl for one of our Easter pictures a few months ago. Any tips for removing creases? Yes, steam them out in advance. I mean, even with vinyl, unless it's super, super thick, you could iron it, not too hot, right? Or steam it out. In other words, you got to hang it and do it. But yeah, that's going to be the best bet. Or try and lay it out flat. Like find a spot like I have back, you know, here, and just leave it laid out flat. Because when I first, you know, when I bought these rolls and unrolled them, like the ends were folded pretty tight and all that. It took about 2 days, and that all, you know, that all came out. So it's really not an issue in that regard. Okay. Robert DePaulis, do I use a color checker or passport at all? Occasionally, yeah. I don't use it all the time, but I have a spider checker here. It is very much a part of my studio setup. It's not a requirement. I don't live by it. It really depends on what I'm doing. So, Perluigi, thank you so thank you so much for the super chat, man. I really, really appreciate it. Okay. All right, where are we at? 7:29. So I think I can get one more in here. Ricardo, you're asking me about the Samyang lens. I have no thoughts, man. I don't use that stuff. I'm an Olympus guy. I stick with Olympus. I've never tried it, never will try. I have no reason to try it. Plus, it's manual focus. These eyes, too slow with manual focus. So gear stuff, you want to go talk to the gear people. I mean, seriously, not trying to, you know, just blow you off. I'm not a gear guy. You got a question about Olympus gear, I can talk to you about that. And, you know, if I don't know it, I'll get you a resource that'll help you. But unfortunately, that stuff, I've always used. When I was a Nikon guy, I used Nikon lenses. When I switched to Sony briefly, I used Sony lenses, right? The only exception to that was that Tokino 100mm f2.8. But now I'm 100% Olympus. That's where I intend to stay. That's pretty much it. Okay? All right, gang. So listen, we are at 90 minutes. So you know the drill. That means that if you've been here the whole time, you owe me 180 minutes minimum with your camera this week. Some of you guys had some questions that you could answer really easy yourselves if you could pick up the camera and try the stuff you're talking about, right? You just can. So hopefully you will do that because you're going to learn a lot more. It's going to be in your visual database. It's the best way to learn. Shoot, fail, shoot some more, fail some more, solve some problems, shoot some more, and you get better. All right? So gang, as always, you know the drill. Have a great week. Go take pictures. Whatever you do, please remember these words.
Thanks for watching another live episode of TogChat. Now, pick up that camera and shoot something because your best shot is your next shot. So keep learning, keep thinking, and keep shooting. Adios.